YouTube, back at you again with another fantasy video. I want to talk about some running backs that you should be looking to draft next year. I'm going to talk about top running backs for PPR leagues, some people you should look to draft after the first two rounds, and I'm going to talk about who to avoid. All right. So I'm going to put some graphics up for certain people, but for some other people, probably not because of, we know how their numbers are, we know how proven they are. CMC is definitely number one consensus running back next year. I don't know who you would draft over him, period. He has 1,600 total yards. He has, 8 rushing touchdowns, 5 receiving touchdowns. He has 328 points. He's basically 20 points ahead of Jonathan Taylor, and he's looking at 25 points per game. That's better than quarterbacks. Christian McCaffrey is the real deal. As long as he doesn't get hurt, I would draft him if I had the chance, if I had the number one pick. Okay. Next, Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, same thing. Dude is going crazy. He has 1,500 total yards. He has 13 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns. He's averaging 23.7 per game, better than most quarterbacks. Great option if CMC is unavailable. Devon Achane is averaging 20 points per game. He has 7 rushing touchdowns and 4 passing touchdowns. He has close to 1,500 yards. I would definitely go after him as well. He is very, very talented, especially in PPR standard formats. So Devon Achane, I would take any of these three over a receiver. Bijan currently is averaging 20.3 fantasy points per game in PPR formats. He only has 5 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns, but he has 600 receiving yards, 1,600 total yards, and 264 fantasy points. he's really good, right? He has more fantasy points than every receiver except for JSN. So I would probably draft Bijan after JSN goes off the board. Now, Jonathan Taylor drops down to 5, even though he's the number 2 uh, fantasy running back right now and better than any receiver. But that is because things have changed. His quarterback's dead. They're looking at hiring 44-year-old Philip Rivers, which is insane to me. Kyle Trask is available. Why not use him? So Jonathan Taylor drops down to 5. His last couple of weeks have been not as good, especially if you're making a playoff push if you weren't winning with him previously, which that can be really frustrating. So I have him down at 5. If JSN's off the board, I would probably take Jonathan Taylor. All right. We just don't know how he's going to be next year. He's getting a little bit older. So that's just kind of my thought process on Jonathan Taylor. Um, by a little bit older, he's 26 and he's been in the year for 5, been in the league for 5 years. So that's what I mean by older. He's going to be 27 next year. I'm sure his knees are tired. Not that he's going to be bad. I just have him at 5. He's still a top pick. He's not 2, 3, or 4 just because of the quarterback situation, right? Like, you can't run the ball if teams are playing run defense and you don't have anyone reliable to pass. If I was playing the Colts, I'm doing run defense and making them throw the ball. Like, that's just what I would do. So that's where I'm at with Jonathan Taylor. Um, Next we've got James Cook III. I avoided him this year, and I regret that because he's currently the 6th best running back. He has 234 points. He has 8 touchdowns, over 1,500 yards, and he has 1 receiving touchdown. So he's having a really good year. Definitely a top 10 pick again this year. Really regret avoiding him, but unfortunately, it is what it is. Next, we have Bucky Irving. Bucky's been hurt most of the year, other than your first couple of games. But if he stays healthy, he's a top 7 pick. He's averaging like between top 7, top 11 numbers right now on average when he plays. So I'm definitely looking to draft him before the rest of these names on this list. Josh Jacobs is at 8. Josh Jacobs is having a good year, a pretty consistent year, but Josh Jacobs has been injury prone since his Raider days. So that's just kind of why I don't have him any higher really. He fits really well in the Green Bay offense. So I like Josh Jacobs at 8 over Javonte Williams just because Javonte Williams has never produced like this before. So I would say Josh Jacobs is more consistent. Josh Jacobs has 12 rushing touchdowns. He has over 1,000 yards between passing and rushing. So I think he's a good PPR running back to target in your first two picks. All right. Next, we have Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams has 11 touchdowns and 1,000 rushing yards, and he has the lowest receiving yards in the top 10 picks for running backs at 128. But he's getting a lot of volume, especially at the goal line, and he's rushing a lot, 1,000 yards when you have Dak airing it out all the time to CD and George Pickens. So Dallas is very fantasy friendly. So I have Javonte Williams at 9. If he ends up somewhere else, depending on what that team is, I might adjust this list. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a breakout year for him. He's number 7 right now, but I think Bucky and Josh are better than Javonte Williams, or at least more consistent, more reliable. Bucky was reliable last year. Josh Jacobs was reliable last year. So that's why I have them over Javonte Williams. All right, Kyron. Now, Kyron is splitting carries a little bit, just a little bit, though, with Mr. Blake Corum. All right. Coach said they're going to split carries to keep Kyron healthy. That's good and all, but sucks for fantasy owners. Since week 8, and I'll put the snap count up on the board, but since week 8, Kyron's and Blake Corum have had a snap share of like 70-30, where Kyron gets 70, Blake gets 30. That's fine, but Blake Corum is eating up some red zone touchdowns here. He had 1 week 13 and 2 week 14. So I have him at 10 just because they might be focused on longevity versus us fantasy owners. We don't care about longevity. We want you to be your best. So I've got Kyron at 10. Um, Kyron could go above Javonte because Kyron's definitely a proven fantasy running back, but I don't know how the rest of the season's going to look and next year's going to look with the timeshare between him and Blake Corum, but I still think even with the timeshare, he's a top 10 running back. I mean, he is currently. He's got 952 rushing yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, almost 200 receiving yards, and he has 3 receiving touchdowns. So Kyron, and he has over 200 fantasy points. So I would take Kyron, pretty high up unless it keeps dwindling and dwindling and dwindling, and then it's like 50-50 like Chuba and or Chuba and Rico Dowdle. So we'll see, but right now, I've got Kyron at 10. Number 11, I've got Cam Skattebo. I did the math, and Cam Skattebo was, even with his worst week, he was the like 15th overall running back on average, which is pretty darn good, all things considered. So I would take him in my first round, depending on who's up. But they said that his rehab won't be bad at all or complicated. So I'm definitely gonna rely on him to do big things next season. So if he's available and I need a running back, then I'm drafting him. Or maybe I need a second running back, or maybe he falls to my second pick because I mean, look at all these guys. There's a lot of guys, so I'm definitely picking him up as early as possible, as soon as possible. All right. Next, I have Omarion Hampton. He finally came back from injury, and he looks good. If you started him, if you gambled starting him over Vidal this week, then you were very happy with his performance. I think he dropped like 14 points. I think he's a top 12 pick. So he's young. He's really good. He's a very talented young man. I think he's going to be a good fantasy option next year. He was good this year. Once game 3 hit, you're like, yeah, glad I drafted this guy. So I think that he's going to be a top pick instead of like I think he was 35 ADP last year, average draft position or pick, whatever you want to call it. So I think he's going to be a really good pick this year. Next, we have Travis Etienne Jr. He's figured it out this year. Jacksonville has figured him out this year. They have really gotten him some really good fantasy numbers, and you feel good about starting him week in week out. He's definitely had some games where you're like, man, why did I do this? But most of the time, you're really happy with the results that he's giving you, and I'll put that up on the screen. I just don't want to get too long. The last time I recorded this video, I was in 35 minutes, and I didn't even cover everything I wanted to. So I'm trying not to spend as much time on it, if possible. So next we have Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has 1,000 yards. He has 10 touchdowns. All right, Derrick Henry is still that guy. He's not the number one guy, but he is still that guy. So I'm taking Derrick Henry really late if I need a running back. Really late in the first 2 rounds if I need a running back. All right. Derrick Henry's having a good year. I think he's going to have a good year next year. He is getting older, but I don't see him. There's nothing that shows us he's slowing down. And if you look at his numbers, other than like a couple games, if you would have just left him in, you would have been really happy with your results. All right. So, some guys that aren't on this list that you should be looking to draft that aren't upcoming rookies, because I don't want to give you advice on upcoming rookies, because while I do watch college football, I don't know who the good upcoming rookies are this year, like people like Amari and Ashton Genty. Okay, so I don't want to talk about those. I want to talk about people you should look to get, second, third, fourth round. All right. Um, Chase Brown, Jalen Warren, Quinshawn Judkins, R.J. Harvey, Travion Henderson, and to be honest, that's it. Maybe Cross Key Merritt. No, I wouldn't do Cross Key Merritt. I'm not picking up a single Washington running back until I see 3 weeks of production, of double digit fantasy production. So let's just keep it with the guys I just said. All right. So um, maybe Genty, Genty I'm on the fence about, but definitely Jalen Warren, Quinshawn Judkins, R.J. Harvey, Travion Henderson are some guys. Chase Brown are all guys that I'm looking to get after these guys go off the board. Maybe if you want to take a gamble on Genty, be my guest. Um, Me personally, I don't know. I'm on the fence about Genty. Maybe after I see how the rest of his games go, but the Raiders suck, so it's really hard to be like, yeah, I want that guy on my team. So, anyways, let's talk about who not to draft. All right, who not to draft. Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard are fresh are who I are they're frustrating because they're splitting time. That's not their fault. That's on the coach. They're both talented. If one of them gets traded somewhere else and it's a good team to run the ball, maybe you draft one of them instead, or signed, not necessarily traded, signed somewhere else. So maybe I would draft one of them instead. And these are the people that I'm telling you to avoid drafting early, right? I would get these people if I already have 2 or 3 running backs. Not Kenneth Walker or Kenneth Gainwell, but everyone else. If I already had established running backs, then I would pick these guys up. Otherwise, I'm saying avoid them in the first 2 to 3 rounds. Okay, so Rico and Chuba, basically because they have a split backfield, don't know what next year is going to look like, so that's why they're on here. Brees Hall, I'll put his numbers up on the screen, but maybe it's because Garrett Wilson's out and they're not airing out the ball like they could be, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm frustrated with Brees Hall this year. And I think out of like 5 out of 14 games, or maybe 4 out of 14 games, he's given you duds. He hasn't eclipsed 20 points once, except for one game. So everything else has been under 20. It could just because he's on the Jets. Maybe if he gets traded elsewhere, I'll feel more comfortable in drafting him early. But no, not this time around for me. Saquon Barkley. The Eagles do not have a fantasy-friendly team at all. I said avoid Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown for next year. I'm saying the same thing for Saquon Barkley. Maybe maybe Madden curse is real. Maybe I'm gonna avoid all Madden cover athletes. So sorry, I had the hiccups. Saquon Barkley, I'll put his numbers up on the screen. Maybe you draft him later and you put him in your flex. Maybe he's your RB, your third running back you draft, or maybe you're projected to. Maybe you pick up Saquon and then like as your RB2, and then you pick up someone else who's maybe more consistent with like 12 points per game. So you throw Saquon in the flex, start the other guy, and you're happy. All right. I'm just saying, don't draft these guys in the first couple of rounds. Kenneth Gainwell. I think Jalen Warren's the better fantasy quarterback, running back. Um, so I think you should avoid going after Kenneth Gainwell. If you get Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell can be a good handcuff. David Montgomery. I think if you draft him late, or if you have Jahmyr Gibbs and you want to handcuff Montgomery, I still think any RB handcuffs you're getting way later. Okay, David Montgomery's getting older, and there's definitely some games where he puts up numbers, but then there's some games you wish you didn't start him. And playing that guessing game is not fun. It is not fun at all. So I would avoid David Montgomery. Point blank simple. And plus, he's not the starting running back. He is the backup. So if Gibbs gets hurt in these next couple of weeks, then I would definitely draft David Montgomery, but it also depends on when Gibbs comes back. So Kenneth Walker is inconsistent because he splits time with Charbonnet, and I think both of them are frustrating to use, except for maybe in a flex spot where some people are injured or whatever. So avoid drafting Kenneth Walker in the first 3 to 4 rounds, to be honest. Okay. All right. Here's some other people I'm going to tell you to avoid. James Conner. He's older. He's getting hurt. Avoid James Conner. I'm not exactly telling you to avoid Ashton Genty. I'm just on the fence about Ashton Genty. I don't know. DeAndre Swift. I think he's splitting time with Monagai, and I don't think that they would be worth early picks, but maybe one of them as your third running back, that would be fine. Um, Ramondre Stevenson, again, he's losing his starting role to Travion Henderson. His only upside is he catches like longer passes from Drake May, but I wouldn't necessarily draft Ramondre Stevenson in the first 3 rounds. Any Vikings running back right now, Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, neither one of them look fantasy friendly. So I would avoid them. Aaron Jones looked really good last year, but he got hurt early on this year, and then when Jordan Mason took over, he just hasn't been that good. So avoid Jordan Mason and Aaron Jones. I would also avoid Alvin Kamara. He has been cheeks this year, for the most part, very underwhelming. So maybe Devin Neal takes over the lead role, and you feel better about using Devin Neal. But if it were me, I would not go after Kamara. I would maybe go after Neal in later rounds. All right. I would avoid any Arizona running back. None of them have been good. I thought that Benson was gonna maybe you get Benson in later rounds, but Xavion Knight, sorry, Zonovan Knight hasn't been that good. I don't even remember. Michael Carter hasn't been that good, so I would avoid him. I would avoid, like I said, avoid any Washington running back until they show you something. Avoid Justice Hill. I would avoid Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt in early rounds, and I would just pick up Hunt later down the stretch in later rounds. But I'm not going after Pacheco at all. Avoid any Houston. I don't even know if I've said this yet. Avoid any Houston running back. Nick Chubb and Woody Marks have been very inconsistent this year. I would not recommend drafting either one of them with your earlier picks. The same with Sean Tucker. Don't go after Sean Tucker. Genty's got the starting role. You can maybe stash Bashal Tutin for Travis Etienne Jr. if you want to stash him, but I wouldn't rely on him for a lot of fantasy points. Tutin, that is. So I think I've covered just about everyone. I will say, if you do draft a running back Um, and I would draft if I drafted a running back that had a good running back cuff, then that's what I would do. I would pick them up later if I have the bench space. So, um, like let's start with the first one, Jahmyr Gibbs. I would pick up Montgomery way later on. Bijan Robinson, I would pick up Tyler Algier, or Algier, however you say his last name. James Cook, I would pick up Ty Johnson. Kyron Williams, I would pick up Blake Corum. Travis Etienne, I would maybe pick up Tootin. Who else? I wouldn't really pick up. I think that's it for now. Jalen Warren, I would pick up Kenneth Gainwell as his cuff. In Denver, it's complicated, right? J.K. Dobbins was doing really good until he went out for injury. Now R.J. Harvey's doing really good. A lot of people were high on R.J. Harvey coming into the season, but R.J. Harvey hasn't panned out until J.K. Dobbins went out. So my advice is I would probably draft R.J. Harvey and then pick up J.K. Dobbins until it's clear who has the starting role. But if I get R.J. Harvey, it's going to be like round 5 or later. Maybe, unless he just like goes crazy. He's top 20 right now. So maybe I get him round 4 or later, but we don't know how it's going to look when J.K. Dobbins gets back. So I don't know. Avoid any Tennessee running back. Avoid Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. Both of them are really inconsistent. Tony Pollard has shown some flashes here and there, but Tennessee just sucks. They're 111. They just suck. Okay? So, all right, we're at 21 minutes, approaching 22 minutes. I feel like I covered everything. I'm going to include graphics on some specific people to provide evidence on why I am doing this, why I'm saying what I'm saying about these people. All right, so here's who I think you should avoid drafting early. Maybe get them later if you want to, whatever you think is best. Um, here's who I think are going to be the top running backs off the board next season. I'm confident in all of these players. I'm confident in drafting all of these players. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you made it this far, thanks for listening to me ramble on about fantasy football. Like in my last video, I really enjoyed talking about fantasy football. I'm in 9 leagues this year. I'm in the playoffs in most of them. So if you have any questions, if you're like, man, this list is trash, let me know. Let me know who you would draft over these people, anybody really. And if you're like, oh, don't avoid this person next year, let me know why. The only person that I'm kind of on the fence about avoiding is Saquon, but I'm probably going to avoid most Madden cover athletes because of the Madden curses. Real Saquon has been really frustrating. So, all right, that's it for the video. I'm live on Twitch every now and then. If you follow me at twitch.tv/noisiness underscore, and then all right, anyways, follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/noisiness, and follow me on TikTok. I'll link my TikTok below. I think it's Toxidens or Noisiness. I don't know. I don't remember. So I'll link it anyways. Sometimes I go live with video games. Sometimes I go live with these recordings. So, and dropping a follow is free. And if you want to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, I'm going to put out some quarterbacks and tight ends you should be drafting. And then maybe once August gets here, we'll do an updated list for everybody, or we'll start off with rookies you should go after. So thanks for hanging out. Have a good day. Drop a like, drop a subscribe, leave me some comments if you think either of these lists are bogus or something you would do different. Peace.